This week on Morning Mika, the long runway and how women well over 50 are changing the future for younger women all around the world. I'm Huma Abedin, taking over the anchor chair today from Mika Brzezinski. Recently, we at Know Your Value, alongside Forbes, celebrated the 4th annual 50 over 50 U.S. list. In New York City, our honorees gathered in the glorious setting of the Rainbow Room to celebrate their success and what it means for the generations of women in front of them. There were so many stories of how 50 is just the beginning when it comes to life, love, happiness, and professional success. From the first woman to lead a major U.S. airline, JetBlue CEO Joanna Garrity, and the first woman and person of color to serve as chair of the New York Stock Exchange, Sharon Bowen. Also, Madeline Pumariega, who launched the nation's first Bachelor of Science degree in Applied Artificial Intelligence, an industry that will be crucial in the coming years, and so many others. The event was headlined by the one and only Mika Brzezinski, who moderated a fireside chat with financial powerhouse Susie Orman, actress and entrepreneur Brooke Shields, and longtime presidential advisor Valerie Jarrett. Those women, by the way, also 50 over 50 honorees. Here are some of the highlights.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 4th annual 50 over 50 luncheon.
I am not yet over 50, but this is 50 over 50 inspiration.
I'm
what?
57.
Okay. All right. We're going to need to see some ID. This brand, I just think, is really important, not just for women over 50, but young women like myself, millennial women, to know that there's more. Okay? We just when we think we've got it all done, there's more to do.
When we got the message that we're on the list this year, it just made us realize that we're doing all the right things.
Women have no barriers. It means we can come together, network, and ultimately make the path better for those behind us.
Absolutely an advantage being over 50 in my life's work, because I think in many ways it means I can bring all of my skill sets, all of my expertise, all my knowledge.
I'm a woman in a leadership position. It gives people hope.
To see that we can still do amazing things in the second half of our life is really motivating.
50 over 50 is a community of women, a community of you, who are proving that success and innovation have no age limit.
There is something to be said about the collective power of being in a room with women like you, and I'll tell you why. We've had a pandemic, we've had a loneliness epidemic that's been well reported. We have young women who don't have opportunities that I had 5 years ago. And it makes the urgency of what we do and the examples that you all show us in the world all that more important.
Money doesn't have an age. It has no age, it has no sex, it has no religion, it has no political affiliation. I don't care if you are 20, if you are 30, if you are 50, or you are 73 like I am. And now I look good, don't I? You will never be powerful in life until you are powerful over your own money.
And it's your turn and time to decide what you want your life to look like. No longer bound by biology or society or culture or any narrative you've been fed. If you were to tell me 50, I would say, oh no, that's old. 50 is old. That's old. That's old people. And the older I get, the younger I feel.
If you have a sponsor, you're 20% more likely to get promoted. And so for all of us, let's commit to sponsoring women that are at any stage of their career.
We have a moment here in our country that a lot more is really at stake. And do we appreciate that we are literally teetering here on the brink? But we also know that women are the backbone of our country, and we have a great deal of influence over the men in our lives and our children.
This has been a 2-week span of crisis on every level. There are consequences playing out for women right now over the past few years, which have made what we do here even more important. And being on this list together, we're doing something very collective and very important for the next generation. We are crushing outdated stereotypes. completely. Here's to you all, to the 50 over 50 global powerful community. Cheers.
During the fireside chat, Valerie Jarrett, Brooke Shields, and Susie Orman also shared many of the life lessons they have learned, proving to women of all ages that the career runway is long, much longer than we ever anticipated. Take a look.
I had a mother who always worked, and she was a trailblazer, and so she was a role model. And I always say it's easier to be what you can see. And so she and my dad never said what I should do, but just said I should try to figure out what I cared passionately about. And my mom, who's turning 96 next week, the day, I know, she just retired 2 years ago. And so it really never has occurred to me that there's like an end date to being a productive and purposeful person. But as you know, Mika, when I started my career, I was pretty miserable. And I made up a 10-year plan. I don't know what I was thinking in college, because everybody else had a plan. So I thought, well, I need a plan too. And I was going to go to law school. Why? Because my best friend went to law school and she said, go, it'll buy you some time. I was going to move back to Chicago. I was going to fall in love, get married, and have a baby before 30, thinking about my biological clock. And then I was going to live happily ever after. And what I've said to Laura time and time again is having her just shy of my 29th birthday, the best thing I've ever done in my entire life, was such a wake-up call, because I've always been really proud of my mother because of the work that she did in early childhood education. And I knew if I stayed at this law firm, miserable, that Laura would never be proud of me, and I wouldn't be the kind of role model for her that my mother had been for me. And so having her, Laura, really gave me the courage to kind of abandon that plan, which was ridiculous anyway, because it was not my plan. And for the first time, listen to the quiet voice inside of me, which is actually the most important one, and follow my passion, which took me into public service and away from this fancy law firm and into a cubicle with a window facing an alley for a lot less money. But when I walked in that door, I said, this is actually where I belong. And I think part of life is finding that and knowing that it gets to change.
And it took a while. And it took a while.
And it took a while, and that's okay. It took being really, really miserable. There's nothing like being both miserable and bored and motivated to make you change.
To start with Commence, I started the company during COVID because I wanted to hear from other women over 40 how they felt that they were being received and treated by society, by the culture. And women feel overlooked, underserved. I always joke, if you look at marketing, you see, the hot 20-something at the bar, or it depends, and dentures. And now it's just menopause. And it's brilliant that menopause is a part of the narrative and part of the conversation. It is. But they've jumped over and just labeled us as menopause. And I wanted to hear from women what they wanted and what they were feeling. And I was finally confident, really, for the first time since I can remember. I wasn't comparing myself to some standard or another person, or I wasn't trying to be anything I wasn't, and I couldn't understand. You understand it in my business because I'm no longer the ingenue, but I'm not in the Titanic throwing my necklace in the water, I would have kept that necklace, by the way. I would not have thrown it in the water. But I was so shocked by how universal this feeling was. Your children start to leave, you're over 40, and all of a sudden you've got one foot in the grave and people are counting you out, and they're not telling you or appreciating your value. And we've talked about this. Knowing your value can come at different times, and it has come in different ways and different times during my life. But when I started to really get to know these women, they wanted to go into this age, this next third of their life, I call it, with power and agency and belief in their individual selves and their differences, and be proud of them. And it was an emotional reason why I started the company. We are a brand that wants to continue the conversation to empower women to grow fearlessly and age with a sense of, look how far I've come, and I still want to do more, or I want to do less. Whatever it is, it's your prerogative and it's your turn and time to decide what you want your life to look like. No longer bound by biology or society or culture.
Brooke, don't get upset at me.
Uh-oh.
Right? We just had a talk.
Oh, I've been there.
She talked and I listened.
Yeah.
And what did you learn in those few minutes of us talking?
That I needed to become much more cognizant and in control of my money and all that that entails.
Wait.
So if you're 30, you have time on your side. It's the most important ingredient in any financial freedom recipe because your money has more time to compound. But I don't care how old you are. It's never too soon to begin. And ladies, it is never too late to start. Right, girlfriend?
Exactly. I am, whatever you say, I am doing it.
Okay. Wait, one more thing. It's not about earning money. It's about what do you do with the money that you earn. And it's not about having a lawyer, a manager, an accountant. It's about you yourself knowing, period. All right.
Wow.
Thank you.
Wow.
And there were plenty of women at the event well under the age of 50, and they spoke about the example of the 50 over 50 honorees are setting for them, hammering home the point that there is no need to rush, there is time to make mistakes, time to raise families, time to pivot careers, and time to do it all. Let's watch.
You know, I'm 34. I'll be 35 at the end of this year.
I love it.
We always think like, I have to get it done before I turn 40. I have to do this, I have to do that.
Simone, there's no window for you. We broke it for you.
Yes,
the window
did.
is broken,
Yes.
the glass ceiling is shattered, so you've got a lot of space. 34 is amazing. You can do 5 different things before you find what it is you're really going to do. Personally, I think you're going to have a political talk show with a live audience, and you're going to be the host, and you're going to have something that meets daytime TV with actually the pulse of the nation. And I'm dead serious. Mark my words.
I love you, Mika. I love you. But because of, I think, the Forbes 50 over 50 and Mika's Know Your Value, I do think that that is a large part of why there's so many young women like myself who say, okay, yes, we can do all these things now, but also I'm not thinking about what happens, what I get done when I'm 40 and then when I'm retiring at 40 and not doing anything anymore. It's like, okay, what do I do 42? What do I hit 45? What will I be doing when I'm 55? And when I think of this brand, I think of the fact that there's so many trails that have been blazed.
And how old are you?
I'm 34.
Oh my God! Long runway. Long runway.
I have to say, before this, I thought Forbes only cares about under 30, but with this,
you fit right in.
I feel like I fit right into this crowd. Yeah, you guys are truly inspiring and give me a lot of hope and confidence that I have a lot to do and I have time and I have time on my side.
We need you.
I think so many of us feel so much pressure to define ourselves and figure out like who we are, what do we do for a living, and get asked these questions that are really hard to answer sometimes. And I think looking at so many of these women that have reinvented themselves so many times and keep pushing the boundaries of what was socially acceptable, it's just that I have so much more to give, and I'm nowhere near done telling my own story and the stories of other people, and that's really exciting.
You know, what inspires me about all of these women is that they are doing amazing things, but what's even more inspiring to me is this event where we're recognizing that there is so much potential and so much runway for women over 50.
But it's also women coming together and supporting each other to get over that hump and to be as powerful as we are publicly, privately, just to be here and to look forward into the future and think there's so much great runway ahead. I can't think of an event that's better than this.
Mika, remember us in 9 years.
Exactly 9 years.
That does it for Morning Mika. But before we go, don't forget nominations for Forbes and Know Your Value's 4th annual 50 over 50 global list are open now. If you know a woman who lives in Europe, the Middle East, Asia, Africa, or South America who is shattering age and gender norms, consider nominating her today. You can get all the details at Forbes.com and KnowYourValue.com. That's it for now. We'll see you soon on YouTube and Peacock.